Stop everything. Put the phone down. Because what Cardi B was just caught doing on camera at her own cousin's baby shower is the one thing nobody, and I mean nobody, ever thought we would see with our own two eyes. Not a performance, not a red carpet, not a stage, a baby shower, a family function. And within 45 seconds of grainy footage, Cardi B managed to confirm every single rumor that has been whispered about her for the last 2 years. We are going to walk through every frame of it. We're going to talk about what it means for those 4 babies. We're going to talk about where the new man has disappeared to. And we are absolutely going to talk about the money. Because, honey, the money conversation is the part nobody else on this platform has the nerve to say out loud. So stay right where you are. Do not go anywhere. Because by the end of this video, you are going to understand why the internet is looking at Cardi B completely differently tonight. Quick note before we get into it, and I need everybody to hear me clearly. Everything discussed on this channel is commentary and entertainment based on footage and information that is already publicly available. Nothing here should be treated as established fact without your own independent verification. We do not condone bullying, harassment, or hate toward Cardi B or anyone else mentioned. Keep the comments respectful, keep the energy cute, and let's discuss like adults. Now, let's get into it. So here's what happened. Cardi B shows up to her cousin's baby shower. Beautiful event, family everywhere, balloons, gifts, the whole production. And at some point during this celebration, Cardi B is captured on camera walking her youngest daughter, Little Blossom, across the room. Not to sit with her, not to hold her, not to bounce her on her hip like any mother at a family function. No. Cardi B walks Blossom over to Culture, her daughter, a child. And in the audio that is now everywhere, you can hear Cardi B tell that baby, in her own words, that this is her cousin's baby shower, that she grew up with her cousin, that she did not grow up with Blossom, that she came here to celebrate the new baby, and that Blossom needs to go hang out with her sister. Go hang out with your sister. At a baby shower. Those are not my words. Those are her words, captured on camera, in a room full of people, at an event that was supposed to be about family. Now let me be fair before the fanbase starts typing in all caps. Is it a crime for a mother to ask an older sibling to watch a younger sibling for a few minutes? Of course not. Families do that every single day. But that is not why this clip is moving the way it is moving. This clip is moving because it is not an isolated moment. It is a confirmation. It is the latest exhibit in a pattern that people have been documenting for a very long time. And when you stack this baby shower footage on top of everything else Cardi B has told us herself, out of her own mouth, on her own lives, the picture stops looking like a busy working mom asking for help. It starts looking like something else entirely. And we are going to walk through every piece of it, one by one, because the details are where the story lives. Let's start with the summer. Because according to what has been floating around online for weeks, those children spent a significant portion of this summer with their fathers and with family members, in some cases out of the country. And look, co-parenting is healthy. Kids spending time with their fathers is beautiful. Nobody is mad at that. But then the children come home, and one of the first times we see Cardi B with baby Blossom in a public setting, the footage is Cardi B redirecting that baby to Culture so she can go be with her cousin. Do you understand why people paused on that? The internet did not manufacture this narrative. The internet simply pressed play. And here is where it gets deeper, because Cardi B is the one who told us about the living situation. Cardi B went live, on her own platform, with her own voice, and told the world that she keeps a separate apartment away from her house. Her words. Not a blog's words. Not a hater's words. Her words. Now, everybody immediately understood why a celebrity might want a private creative space. That is not strange. Plenty of artists have studios and condos and workspaces. But when you combine a separate apartment with 30 nannies, and yes, we will get to the 30 nannies, because that number matters. When you combine a separate apartment with a rotating door of help, with grandparents who reportedly have those kids constantly, with a summer where the babies were with their fathers, and then with baby shower footage of Cardi B handing Blossom off to Culture within minutes. People are no longer asking whether Cardi B needs help. People are asking how much help one person can possibly need before we have an honest conversation about what is going on in that house. 30 nannies for 4 children. I need that sentence to sit with you for a second, because I have turned it over in my head all week, and it still does not sit right. 30, not 3. Not a day nanny and a night nanny. 30, according to what has been reported and discussed. Even if that number is inflated, even if the real number is half of that, that is still a small staffing agency raising 4 kids. And before anybody says, well, she can afford it, she worked for it, let her spend her money how she wants. Baby, that is not the point, and you know that is not the point. The point is not the money. The point is the pattern. Because every time Cardi B has those children for any visible stretch of time, within days there is a live, or a rant, or a space, or a video where Cardi B is talking about how exhausted she is, how she needs a break, how hard it all is. And people are sitting in their living rooms, raising their own kids with no nanny at all, doing bedtime and bath time and homework and shift work, watching a woman with 30 nannies, 2 grandmothers, a whole family support system, and a private apartment retreat tell the internet she is overwhelmed. You can hear that however you want to hear it. I am just telling you why the comment sections look the way they look tonight. And while we are on the nannies, let me ask the question that everybody tiptoes around, because I am not accusing anybody of anything. I am simply asking for a friend. If the children spend the summer with their fathers, and the children spend the school stretches with the nannies, and the children spend the weekends with grandma and grandpa, and Cardi B retreats to the separate apartment when the house gets loud, then when, precisely, is the shift? What does a Tuesday look like in that house? Who does bath time on a Wednesday? Who signs the permission slips? Who knows which kid hates which cereal? Who gets woken up at 2 in the morning when somebody has a nightmare? Because those details are the actual job. Motherhood is not the photo shoot and the holiday matching pajamas. That is the highlight reel. Motherhood is the unglamorous middle, the 10,000 small repetitions nobody ever posts. And when every visible fragment of a child's life seems to route through somebody other than the mother, the public is going to notice, and the public is going to talk. That is not cruelty. That is pattern recognition, and the internet is very, very good at it. Now, we have to talk about culture, because in my opinion, culture is the quiet center of this entire story. Culture is a big sister. Culture is not staff. There is a difference, and that difference matters. When you watch that baby shower footage closely, and I have watched it more times than I am willing to admit, culture is off to the side with her little friends, being a kid, doing exactly what a kid should be doing at a party. And here comes Cardi B, walking Blossom across the room, hand in hand, and delivering that baby to culture like a package with instructions. And listen, I was a big sister figure to people in my family. I know what it is to be the oldest. Being the oldest means you grow up a little faster whether you want to or not. But there is a reason that moment hit a nerve with so many mothers and so many eldest daughters online, because a whole generation of eldest daughters watched that clip and saw themselves. The oldest child is not the third parent. The oldest child did not sign those papers. Culture did not have that baby. And when the internet watches culture get handed a toddler at a party while Cardi B goes to be with her cousin, the question writes itself. If the 30 nannies exist, where were they? If the support system is so deep, why is the child the fallback plan at a family function? Why not just bring one of the nannies to the baby shower? It is a baby shower. Babies are literally the theme. Nobody would have blinked. And since we are being thorough, let's sit with what culture's face showed in that clip, because body language does not lie even when captions do. That little girl was mid-moment with her friends, laughing, relaxed, in her own world the way a child should be, and the shift when the baby arrives is visible if you are paying attention. Not a tantrum, not drama, just that tiny recalibration that eldest children learn so young it becomes invisible. Playtime is conditional. Childhood is interruptible. Your job is to be useful. Thousands of grown women in comment sections across the internet recognized that recalibration instantly because they lived it. They were the third parent at 9 years old. They are the ones typing the longest, most passionate comments under this story right now, not because they hate Cardi B, but because they love culture, a child they have never met, enough to flinch for her. That is not a Stan war. That is a wound talking, and it is worth listening to. And I want to be careful here, because this is not about dragging a little girl's name into grown folks' conversation. Culture is a child, and she is off limits, period. This is about the adult in the room and the choices the adult makes on camera. Because Cardi B is the one who built the brand of being a mother. Cardi B posts those children when Cardi B is with them. We see the cute videos, we see the matching outfits, we see the holidays. And let me be clear, those babies are precious, and nobody is saying a mother cannot post her children. But the audience has gotten very sophisticated. People understand the difference between documentation and curation. When every single public image of your motherhood is polished and posted, and then raw, unpolished footage leaks of you redirecting your baby to her sister at a party, people do not get mad at the footage. People get mad at the gap between the footage and the posts. That gap is the story. That gap is always the story. Now let's talk about the part that made my jaw actually hit the floor, because we cannot discuss Cardi B and absent parenting without discussing the hypocrisy file. And the hypocrisy file is thick. Do y'all remember what Cardi B said about Offset? Because the internet remembers everything. Cardi B went on rants, multiple rants, telling the world that Offset was not there for the kids, that Offset did nothing for the kids, that she was carrying the whole load by herself. Offset this, Offset that, Offset the third. She painted that man as the absent father of the century, in public, repeatedly, while the whole internet took notes. Now fast forward to tonight. Fast forward to the baby shower footage. And people are looking at Cardi B handing Blossom to culture, and they are asking a very uncomfortable question. If Offset was a deadbeat for not being around, what do we call this? And before you type it, no, I am not saying Offset was a perfect father. That is not what this is. What this is a consistency problem. You cannot spend 2 years building a public case against a man for not showing up, and then get caught on camera at a family party showing us the same energy you crucified him for. The internet is not confused. The internet is just keeping receipts, and baby, the receipt drawer is full. And speaking of fathers, where is the new one? Because that is the question that is lighting up every group chat right now. The new man, the one the blogs have been dissecting for months, the one people online have given about 15 different nicknames because nobody can keep track anymore. Where is he? We barely see him with that baby. We barely see him at all anymore. And now word is he just picked up new work obligations, which means the little bit of presence he was providing is about to shrink even further. I am not celebrating that. A baby deserves both parents, full stop. But I am going to point at the obvious, because somebody has to. Cardi B torched Offset publicly for absence, and then turned around and built a brand new family situation with a man who is now, allegedly, just as invisible. At what point does the conversation stop being about the man? At what point do we look at the common denominator in all of these situations? I am asking sincerely, not to be messy, because 4 children, 2 fathers, and a whole lot of absence in every direction is not bad luck anymore. It is a decision-making pattern, and the only people who pay for a grown woman's decision-making pattern are the 4 little people who did not choose any of it. And let's stay on that for one more beat, because the timeline deserves daylight. Those 2 youngest babies arrived practically back-to-back. Irish twins, as folks call them. For children, all under 12. That is not a family. That is a daycare roster. And I say that with love because raising one child is already the hardest job on earth. But here is what the critics have been saying, and honestly it is hard to argue with. There was no pause. There was no season of healing. Cardi B has talked publicly about postpartum. Cardi B has talked publicly about how hard it is, about being overwhelmed, about the weight of all those kids. And the whole internet sat there watching her say it, thinking the exact same thing at the exact same time. Baby, we know. We have been watching the pace you move at. And now we have baby shower footage of that pace in real time. And it looks exactly like what everyone feared, a woman with more children than bandwidth, outsourcing bedtime to a first grader. Do y'all remember the interview? The big sit-down, the glossy one, where Cardi B looked into the camera and said she wanted 6 kids. 6. I remember the clip going around and half the internet laughing and the other half going quiet, because the people who were actually paying attention heard something different in that answer. It is easy to want 6 children when the wanting is abstract. It is a whole other thing when the wanting becomes 4 real human beings who need breakfast and boundaries and a mother who is actually in the building. And I am not saying Cardi B does not love those kids. I believe she does. You can hear it when she talks about them. But love and presence are 2 different currencies, and children only accept one of them. A child does not experience love through a necklace or a FaceTime call or an Instagram post. A child experiences love through a body in a chair at the table. And that is the piece that I think gets lost every single time this conversation comes up, Because the fan base hears any critique of Cardi B as an attack on her womanhood or her success, and it is neither. It is a question about four specific little humans and whether the adults in their lives are actually showing up for them. Which brings me to the career, because I know somebody is typing right now. She is busy, she is working, she is building an empire. That is why she needs the help. Okay, let's talk about the empire, because the empire is the part of this story that nobody else wants to touch, and it is the part that makes the baby shower footage make the most sense. Let's go through the resume of the last stretch of time. Honestly, no spin. 1 video recorded. 1. Not dropped yet, just recorded. The business orders that she told everybody she was locked in on, where are they? Because people who ordered are asking the same question, and I am just telling you what the internet is saying. The collabs and endorsements that used to rain down on Cardi B in the early years, the fashion houses, the campaigns, the Super Bowl energy, that pipeline has slowed to a drip, and when a deal does surface lately, it is in a category that tells you exactly where the brand value currently sits. No shade. These are just facts with dates attached, and the internet has a long memory. And let's name what the drip actually looks like, because the category shift tells the whole story. At the peak, it was luxury fashion, it was sneakers, it was the kind of partnerships brands build entire quarters around. Lately, the deals that surface are in a very different lane, the kind of partnerships that pay reliably but signal loudly that the prestige tier has moved on. And look, there is no shame in a check. A check is a check, and plenty of artists would celebrate half of what she still commands. But the trajectory is the story. Fame is a stock price, and the market has been quietly repricing for a while now. The fans see the designer bags on the feed and think the altitude is the same, but anyone who actually reads the industry can tell the difference between flying and gliding. One of those has an engine behind it. The other is just gravity on a delay. And here is the piece that matters most, because it came from Cardi B herself. Cardi B got on a live and told the world that the labels are not paying the way people think. Not just her label, all of them, according to her. Her own words, her own platform. Cardi B told us she was behind millions on tour costs. Cardi B told us money had to come out of her own pocket. Cardi B told us she was scared to drop. Do you hear what I am telling you? The woman said the quiet part out loud months ago, and half the internet was too busy arguing about her nails to notice. So when people ask, what could Cardi B possibly be so busy with that she cannot hold her own baby at a baby shower? That is exactly the point. It is not a schedule problem. The studio has not seen her. The business orders are not shipping. The tour math is upside down by her own admission. So what, exactly, is pulling her away from those children? Because it is not the work. The work, by every available public measure, has slowed to a crawl. And that is the observation that turns this from gossip into a genuinely uncomfortable conversation. The empire excuse does not hold, because the empire is quiet. And let me add the layer that really ties it together, because y'all remember the late-night spaces. Cardi B has been going on those audio rants for months, and I need you to notice something that almost nobody reported. The last one barely made a ripple. Think about that. 2 years ago, Cardi B sneezed on a live, and it was headlines for a week. Now she can get on a space and vent for an hour, and the blogs do not even bother clipping it. That silence is not peace. That silence is fatigue. The audience has a finite appetite for outrage, and when every week brings a new rant about the haters, the blogs, the label, the X, the fans, the critics, eventually the rants stop being events and start being weather. Background noise. And for an artist whose entire commercial engine ran on attention, becoming background noise is the scariest sentence in this entire video. It also explains, by the way, why certain people keep a certain level of mess simmering right before a drop. When the music cannot command the timeline by itself anymore, the timeline has to be heated up some other way. I am not saying that is what is happening here. I am saying watch the pattern and decide for yourself. And y'all, I have to zoom out for a second, because this is bigger than one rapper from the Bronx. There is a whole economy conversation hiding inside this story, and nobody is connecting the dots. Think about what Cardi B confessed. Labels not paying, tour debt, fear of dropping music. Now think about how many other celebrities have been getting on camera lately saying versions of the exact same thing. Times are hard. Deals dried up. Checks are smaller. And meanwhile, go look at your own grocery bill. Go look at your rent. Go look at what is coming out of your check in taxes while everybody up top argues about whose fault it is. The celebrity class spent a decade flossing. The diamonds, the cars, the stacks on Instagram. And now the flossing has gone silent. You ever noticed that? When was the last time you saw one of them really showing off like it was 2018? You cannot floss in a downturn, because the moment you floss, the internet starts doing your math for you. And that silence you are hearing from Hollywood right now is not humility. It is arithmetic. Cardi B is not the exception to the new economy of fame. Cardi B is the case study. Now, before somebody's fingers catch fire in the comments, let me deal with the man rotation question, because it keeps coming up and we might as well address it head on. What happened to the soccer player? Because I remember, and y'all remember, it was not that long ago that the internet had Cardi B linked, allegedly, to that whole situation, and then poof. Gone. No explanation, no post, just absence, same as always. And I am not going to sit here and pretend to know the intimate details of anybody's dating life, because I do not, and neither does anybody else outside that house. But the pattern is public. The rotation is public. The speed is public. And when you are raising 4 children, the speed of the front door matters, because children attach to whoever is standing in the kitchen making pancakes. Every new face is a new attachment, and every exit is a small grief that a child cannot name. That is not me being judgmental. That is child development, and it does not care how famous the mother is. So let's come back around to the baby shower, because everything I just laid out is why 45 seconds of footage turned into a referendum. In a vacuum, a mother tells her baby to go sit with big sister and nobody cares. But Cardi B does not live in a vacuum. Cardi B lives in a context that Cardi B built. The separate apartment admission, the 30 nannies, the summer with the fathers, the grandparents on permanent rotation, the lives where she is exhausted, the rants where Offset was the absent one, the new man who is already a ghost, the label money that is not coming, the tour debt, the one unreleased video, the 6 kids interview, the curated posts versus the raw footage. Context is the whole game. And in context, that clip does not read as a parenting shortcut. It reads as a worldview. The children are a responsibility to be distributed, and everybody around Cardi B, the nannies, the grandmothers, the fathers, and now apparently culture, is part of the distribution network. The only person who never seems to be on the receiving end of the distribution is the one who keeps telling us how obsessed she is. And can we talk about that word for a second? Because Cardi B uses it constantly. Obsessed. She is obsessed with the kids. She misses them terribly. She watches them sleep. And I want to be gentle here, because I think that language is real. I think in the moment she means every syllable of it. But the internet has a cruel little saying that applies to way more than celebrities. Watch the feet, not the mouth. The mouth says obsessed. The feet are in a separate apartment. The mouth says she cannot bear to be away from them. The feet are across the baby shower venue while culture holds the baby. And at some point, when the mouth and the feet tell 2 different stories for long enough, the audience stops listening to the mouth. That is not hate. That is just how trust works, for a mother in the Bronx, or a mother on a stage, or anybody else on this earth. Credibility is a bank account. Every action is a deposit or a withdrawal. And lately, the account is overdrawn. And let's be honest about the FaceTime of it all, because Cardi B leans on that image constantly. The calls when she is away, the screenshots, the I miss them captions. And again, I believe the missing is real. But a FaceTime call is not presence, and deep down everybody knows it. You cannot kiss a forehead through a screen. You cannot break up a sibling fight through a screen. You cannot smell a baby's hair through a screen. Video calls are what we invented so that absence could feel a little less like absence. They are a coping tool, not a parenting plan. And when the coping tool starts getting presented as the parenting plan, when the caption says obsessed but the camera at the baby shower says otherwise, people stop grading on the celebrity curve. Because here is the truth nobody in the fanbase wants to sit with. Regular mothers get zero grace for this. A regular mom with a separate apartment and round-the-clock sitters handing her toddler to her 11-year-old at a family party would not get a think piece in her defense. She would get a visit from somebody. The only reason this is a debate instead of a consensus is fame, and fame is not a parenting credential. Now I already know what is coming. So let me talk directly to the fanbase for a minute, with love. Barty Gang, I am not your enemy, and this video is not a takedown. I am going to say something to y'all that nobody else in these commentary streets will say straight. You deserve better too. Because every time Cardi B gets on a live and curses y'all out, every time the fan base gets dogged out for asking a fair question, every time the people who bought the records and streamed the videos and defended her in comment sections for 8 years get treated like the opposition, y'all deserve better than that. And the wildest part? She needs you right now more than she has ever needed you. The label money is slow. The tour math is brutal, by her own telling. The algorithm does not care about loyalty, but a fan base does. And the way you keep a fan base for the long haul is not by hooting and hollering at them every time they ask whether everything is okay at home. So before y'all come in here crying and defending, just answer one question honestly, in your own heart, not in my comments. If your sister, your best friend, your cousin was moving exactly like this, the rotation of men, the back-to-back babies, the separate apartment, the oldest child on babysitting duty at the family party, would you call it a hate campaign or would you call it an intervention? Be honest. I will wait. And while I am talking to the fan base, let me actually check on y'all for a second, because I mean this. It was not that long ago, days, not months, that Cardi B got on one of those rants and lit into the very people who defend her hardest, and some of y'all took that personally, and honestly, you had every right to. Pouring years of loyalty into an artist and then getting cursed out over a fair question is not a small thing. So before you charge into these comments to fight for somebody who has publicly snapped at her own supporters more than once, just make sure you are okay. Make sure the relationship is not one-directional. Healthy fandom is a two-way street, and the moment you realize you are doing all the driving, you are allowed to pull over. That is not betrayal. That is boundaries. And if Cardi B ever does the work, the music, the consistency, the showing up, at home and in the career, the fan base that returns will be 10 times stronger than the one she has been lecturing. And to the people who say, well, she is rich, she will figure it out, money solves problems. Baby, money solves logistics. Money does not solve presence. There are children in mansions right now being raised by staff who would trade every toy in that house for one uninterrupted Saturday with their mother. And there are children in 2-bedroom apartments who feel like the richest kids on earth because their mama is in the building. That is the whole ballgame. Fame is not a parenting strategy. Net worth is not a bedtime routine. And the saddest possible outcome of this entire story is for beautiful, funny, brilliant children growing up with professional-level care and amateur-level access, telling a therapist in 20 years that they were raised by a village while their mother built a brand about how much she loved them. I do not want that ending for those kids. I genuinely do not. Because say what you want about Cardi B, the talent is real, the hustle is real, the come-up was real. Nothing about this critique requires her to be a villain. It just requires her to be home. And let me say the thing out loud that the louder corners of the internet will never say, because it does not get clicks. I want Cardi B to win. Not the version of winning that is another viral rant, another rotation, another era of curated posts over raw absence. The real version. The version where the album drops because the work is undeniable, not because the mess heated the timeline up first. The version where the baby shower footage 2 years from now is Cardi B in the corner with Blossom on her hip, telling stories, being the cousin and the mother at the same time, because it was never an either-or until somebody made it one. The version where the 6 kids interview becomes a punchline she outgrew instead of a prophecy she kept feeding. That version is available to her tomorrow morning. Every resource, every dollar, every advantage a mother could ask for is already sitting in her house. The only thing that has ever been missing is the one thing money cannot order, nannies cannot deliver, and fan bases cannot defend into existence. The decision to be there. That is the whole story. Everything else is noise. So where does this go from here? Honestly, the next move writes itself, and you can already see the shape of it. Watch what happens in the next few weeks. There will be a response, a live, a rant, a space, something, because there is always a response, and the response will never once mention the actual footage. It will be about the blogs, the haters, the fake pages, the people who do not want to see her win. The deflection is the tell. It has been the tell every single time. And then, if the pattern holds, there will be a content drop not long after, because y'all have noticed what I have noticed, right? The mess and the music move together. The controversy heats up, and suddenly there is a rollout. I am not saying it is calculated. I am saying I have been watching this channel long enough to recognize a rhythm when I hear one. So set your notifications, because the response is coming, and I will be right here to walk through it frame by frame the moment it drops. And for the record, because I want to leave the babies exactly where they belong, out of grown folks' business. Those 4 children are gorgeous, and nothing in this video is a critique of them. Culture is a kid being a kid. Wave is a kid being a kid. The little ones are babies. The entire conversation is about the adults, the decisions, and the gap between the Instagram version and the footage version. That gap is where every single story in celebrity culture lives right now. The public has screenshotted too much, clipped too much, archived too much. You cannot curate your way past raw footage in 2026. The camera is always rolling, the internet never sleeps, and the audience has a longer memory than the news cycle. The celebrities who survive this era are going to be the ones whose private footage matches their public captions. Everybody else is one cousin's baby shower away from a very long week. So now I am turning it over to y'all, because this is where you come in. Number 1. Was the baby shower moment a normal family handoff that the internet is blowing out of proportion, or was it a window into something bigger? Number 2. The 30 nannies, the separate apartment, the summers with the fathers. At what point does a support system become a substitute? And number 3, the one I really want answered. Does Cardi B owe Offset an apology for 2 years of absent father rants? Or is the situation with him still different in a way I am not seeing? Get in the comments, but keep it respectful. We discuss public behavior here. We do not attack children. We do not harass anybody. And we do not wish harm on a single soul mentioned in this video. And before you click away, do not forget, the moment Cardi B responds to this footage, and she will, the breakdown is coming straight to this channel. Last time she went on one of those late-night spaces and nobody covered it. Everybody acted confused about why the views were not there. The hooting and hollering era is over, baby. People want analysis now. They want receipts, timestamps, and somebody willing to say the uncomfortable part out loud. That is what we do here. So if this is your first time pulling up, hit subscribe and turn the bell on, because the next chapter of this story is already loading, and you are going to want to be in the building when it drops. And if you have been rocking with the channel, you already know we do not do rumors without receipts. We do not do hate, and we never, ever miss the follow-up. And one last word about Blossom herself, because that baby is the person in this story who cannot speak. She is a toddler. She did not ask for the necklace named after her, the captions, or the camera at the baby shower. Everything she will ever know about this chapter of her life, she will learn from footage other people chose to post. That is the quiet weight of being a celebrity child in 2026. Your childhood is content before it is memory. So when I say the adults need to do better, that is the face I am talking about, not a headline. A little girl who deserved to be held at the party. One more thing before I let y'all go, because I mean this from the bottom of my heart. To every single parent watching this who is doing bedtime tonight with no nanny, no separate apartment, no village, no label advance, working a shift, packing a lunch, sitting on the edge of a twin bed reading the same book for the 40th time. This story was never really about Cardi B. It is about what your presence is worth, and the answer is, more than 30 nannies could ever be. Y'all are the real standard, not the woman at the baby shower. You. Now sound off in the comments. Tell me what you think about all of this. Keep it cute, and I will see you in the next one. Because trust me, with the way this story is moving, the next one is coming a whole lot sooner than you think.